Welcome to a new episode of the Letters from the Heart podcast. From the forest where I came spontaneously today to record this intro to this very, very special new episode. I'm still in awe, I'm still inspired and grateful that I was able to have this conversation and to finally share it with all of you. I spoke to Gary Zukav. Gary is a spiritual teacher from the US. He's a 4-time New York Times best-selling author. He and his partner Linda Francis have inspired millions of people around the whole world. He was the most invited guest of all times at the Oprah show. I believe he was there 35 times or even more. And I'm so honored and grateful that he came on this podcast to share his wisdom with all of us. His book, The Seed of the Soul, came to me in one of the most difficult times of my life. And it really helped me to keep my head above water. And more than that, it gave me a language for something that I knew deep inside, but I had no words for yet. We speak about what it means to live in the new consciousness, how that relates to the understanding of power, shifting from external power to authentic power. We talk about the role of intuition and all of that, and how we can receive guidance and what it means to become multisensory. We also speak about emotional awareness, how we can learn from our emotions, and how we can learn to align our personality with our soul. And towards the end of the conversation, Gary shows us practically how we can consciously choose to act from a loving part of our personality instead of a frightened part of our personality. This conversation is so dear to me. It's full of wisdom, it's full of inspiration, and it's full of insights. It's a long conversation, but I really urge you to stay until the end so that you can receive the practical tools that Gary shares on how to create authentic power, and you can apply them in your life to see if they resonate and if you can benefit from them. And I have to say, it was also a very challenging conversation for me. At times I was moved, at other times I was trying to process what Gary said, especially since I'm not a native speaker. And at other times, I was just speechless, as you will see. If this conversation resonates with you, I would be so grateful if you can share it with your friends, with your family, with anyone that you think could benefit from these powerful teachings. And if you can, please rate the podcast on your favorite platform so that more people can find it. If you want to support my work, you can become a paid subscriber to the Letters from the Heart newsletter on Substack, or you can send me a donation via the link below on Buy Me a Coffee. This podcast does not rely on any sponsors or promotional partners. It's solely based on this small community of paid subscribers that really make it possible for me to do this work and to bring these inspiring conversations out into the world so that you can listen to them and you can benefit from them. I'm so grateful you're here with me, you're spending your time with me and with Gary and listening to this inspiring conversation. Thank you so much, and I wish you a lot of joy with this conversation. Gary, welcome to the Letters from the Heart podcast, and thank you so much for being here. It's really an honor and a joy to speak to you personally. Thank you.
Oh, you're welcome, Paul. I'm looking forward to our conversation.
I want to speak to you about intuition today because I'm really passionate about this topic. And I feel we are in the midst of some kind of age of intuition, maybe we can call it. At least that's my own experience and from talking to other people. And I feel like it's the tool to connect us, to reconnect us, or to remind us of our own power. And to see that we can get all the guidance and assistance and support within. And we don't have to look for authorities and gurus outside. So I find that really fascinating. And there's a quote in The Seed of the Soul that I really enjoy, and it says, "Intuition is a walkie-talkie between the personality and the soul." So maybe we can start from that. Maybe you can speak a little bit more about that, and then also to see how we can actually pick up that walkie-talkie and consciously draw upon that assistance.
That sounds like a perfect topic. For me, the walkie-talkie is part of a larger picture. And the larger picture, for me, is a new human consciousness. And I say to and offer to you and to everyone who's listening to us that I do not expect you to accept anything that I say is so simply because I say it. In fact, I recommend that if you resonate with anything that I say, you try it out in your life and see what it produces for you. And if it produces something that you like, try it again. Keep experimenting. If it doesn't produce anything that's constructive for you, let it go. Don't try to wear a shoe that pinches. And what I want to share with you is that in my experience, we are in the midst of an unprecedented, epic transformation in human consciousness, and it's happening very fast. It's happening within 3 human generations, and 1/2 of them have already arrived. Those are millennials and Gen Z. This new human consciousness is, in terms of our previous experience with the evolution of human consciousness, the old human consciousness evolved, for example, over roughly 350,000 years. To say that a new human consciousness is emerging in the human species in 3 generations is inconceivable. It's impossible. It's unimaginable. But it's happening, and we're experiencing it right now. Mm-hmm. This new consciousness is, you might say, exploding into human awareness. And it's very different from the old consciousness. The old consciousness was limited to the 5 senses. That means from the perspective of the old consciousness, if you can't see it or taste it or touch it or hear it or smell it, it doesn't exist. It's imagination, or it's fantasy, or it's pathology, but it's not real. And also, according to the old consciousness, the understanding of power is simple. It's manipulation and control. You can gain it or you can lose it. This is external power. You can inherit it. But the new understanding of power is very different. The new consciousness is not limited to the 5 senses. That means that we are beginning to experience aspects of non-physical reality. And this is where your question and your passion about intuition comes in. If I ask you, Paul, do you think you're more than a mind and a body? What would you say?
Now I say yes.
What's that?
Now I would say yes. A few years ago, I wouldn't have been sure.
Yes, but you are sure now. Mm-hmm. So are billions of us. This is the new consciousness. If I ask someone with the old consciousness, are you more than a mind and a body? He would look at me and he would say, what else is there? That's the difference. That's how huge the difference is between the old consciousness and the new consciousness. In other words, there's nothing that you can say to explain or describe any of the experiences of the new consciousness. So we are speaking in your podcast to individuals with the new consciousness. I can say this confidently because if they didn't have the new consciousness, they wouldn't be listening to a podcast like yours. Mm-hmm. And because they do have it, they find it interesting and informative because they want to learn more about themselves. They want to learn more about this new consciousness. Millennials and Gen Z may not think in terms of a new consciousness and an old consciousness because the new consciousness is for you and for them. human consciousness. That's all. This is what it means to be human. This is what we experience. But nonetheless, it can be helpful for millennials and Gen Z and even Gen Alpha. Older Gen Alpha would be around 12 or 13, which is a very intelligent and receptive state. It can be helpful to understand that there is a difference between an old consciousness that you do not have and the new consciousness that you do have. And the reason it can be helpful is because that can explain why the world around you is as it is. It's disintegrating. It's falling apart. Our social structures are collapsing, and they have no replacement. New social structures are emerging in their place because all of the old social structures are built on the assumption of power and the experience of power as ability to manipulate and to control. And that understanding of power is more than merely obsolete now. It's poison. It's used to be our good medicine. Now it's toxic. It produces only violence and destruction. Once you can begin to see this, the world around you will make a great deal more sense. It's dissolving because it also, not only its social structures, the world itself, by this I mean the energetic, the experience, the energy that makes our world, is now the new consciousness. And the understanding of power is alignment of your personality with your soul. This means harmony, cooperation, sharing, and reverence for life. So once you can see this or consider it, you'll see that trying to make the world better by using the old understanding of power, manipulation, and control cannot work. All that can do is add more to the world of what it's already made of. So, for example, if you think, well, in the United States we have a very conservative president. He's reminiscent in many ways of the most conservative and destructive leader in the history of Germany.
Yes.
What can we do about him? Well, if your answer is, let's get him out of office, let's form a new political party, let's get more votes, get more money, and we'll be done with him. That's the pursuit of external power, manipulation, and control. And all it's going to do is add more to what the world is already made of, and the world is collapsing because of exactly that. This is good news, Paul, and this is good news to everyone that's listening to us, because it means that you are no longer a victim of the way the world is. From the old consciousness, the world, the outside world, is what determines your consciousness. What happens there causes what you think, what you feel, what you do. From the new consciousness, it's the opposite. What's behind your eyes has more power than what lies in front of them. It's your consciousness that determines your experience of the world. Let me give you an example. Suppose that there is an accident. Suppose that a young child runs out onto the street and a bicyclist rides by and sideswipes the child, knocks him down, and the child's lying on the street, unconscious. So if you're a parent and you look at this and you think, oh, God, what a disaster. My child, is he okay? Is he going to have to go to the hospital? Is he all right? In other words, you're holding this experience that happened in the world in one way, as a catastrophe, as a disaster. You can hold it in another way. From the perspective of the new consciousness, you could look at that same circumstance and say, this is an opportunity to grow spiritually for me. And your experience of it will be quite different. I'm suggesting to you and to all of our listeners that everything that happens to you Everything in your experience serves a purpose, and that purpose is your spiritual growth. Now, I've spoken a lot. You've been very gracious in allowing me to explain all of this. Do you have any questions before we move forward or move away?
I had a lot of ideas what to say. It makes a lot of sense to me. You know, Gary, I'm working at the moment with kids in primary school and high school, and I'm tutoring them in German. And I've tried in the past weeks to follow the education system structure and teach them German, teach them grammar, and I've been very frustrated. And at some point, I noticed if I give them a chance to write intuitively and to give them some keywords and let them write a story, it is incredible what comes out. And these kids and these teenagers are so intuitive. I have never experienced anything like that. That was just what came to my mind when you were talking about the new generations that are already part of the new consciousness and they don't even question it. That's my personal experience from that. Where we can move on is maybe the question how intuition fits into where's the place of intuition in the new consciousness, and is it the new consciousness that is providing an expansion of these possibilities like intuition, or is our intuition and how we channel that actually paving the way for the new consciousness?
From my perspective, the intuition is a central aspect of the new consciousness. Intuition is the voice of the non-physical world. It's through intuition that we have access to wisdom and compassion and intelligence that's beyond what we can share with one another. So intuition itself is not the big change. Intuition is a central part of the big change. Intuition is a central part of the new consciousness. We are becoming a species that interacts with non-physical teachers as easily and frequently as we interact with one another. This is the new defining characteristic of the new human species, of the new human consciousness. And it's good to know this because if you have parents or colleagues that still are confined to the old consciousness, you're not superior to them and they're not inferior to anyone. It's a temporary situation. It's a temporary flow and ebb of evolution. Within the next generation and a half, everyone will have the new consciousness. But not everyone will be authentically powerful. We can talk about that. That's a different story. Authentic power, the new understanding of power, is a potential that comes with the new consciousness. The new consciousness is a gift. You don't have to do anything to obtain it. All we have to do is unwrap it and use it. Creating authentic power is a potential of that new consciousness, and that has to be earned. That has to be created. And I would like to speak in more detail about that because this is the thing that I love to share. This is the central, the heart, the shining new dawn of the new consciousness, authentic power. It's yours to create. No one can take it from you when you do. No one can give it to you. It's all the central part of the curriculum in this learning environment of time, space, matter, and duality and fear that we can call the Earth School. It is an educational arena. Its curriculum is love. We learn how to love. And in that process, we learn the most fundamental tool in spiritual growth, without which no further spiritual growth is possible, and that is choice. We are not choosers. We do not have choice. We are choice. We choose at every moment, consciously or unconsciously. And the Earth School is a domain of duality. That means for every this, there's a that. Male, female, night, day, big, small, bad, good. The fundamental duality that can't get any deeper, bedrock bottom of this Earth School of duality is love and fear. Every choice is a choice between love and fear. The intention of love or the intention of fear. Now, by fear, I mean not just fear and trembling, like Kierkegaard said, not that at all, of course that. But jealousy, resentment, competitiveness, anxiety, overwhelm, feelings of superiority and entitlement, feelings of inferiority and needing to please. These are all faces of fear, experiences of fear. And they all have two things in common. Number one, they're painful to experience. Number two, when you act on them, they create painful, destructive consequences. The other duality is love, and we experience love as gratitude, appreciation, caring, contentment, patience, all of the universe. These also have two things in common. Number one, they're all wonderful to experience. They feel so good. And number two, they create constructive, healthy, creative, vital experiences for you when you act on them. So we are learning in the Earth School every moment to create with fear or to create with love. If we're not aware of what we're choosing fear. It requires conscious choice to create with love.
So,
pardon me?
Sorry. Is it intention and choice that transform intuition into authentic power? In a way.
No, intuition is a tool. Intuition is the voice of the non-physical world. Intuition will assist you. Intuition will show you the new consciousness. In my experience with a teacher, we all have non-physical teachers. Everyone has at least one. And we often have more than one. How many we have depends upon how many people we are influencing. But a non-physical teacher will never tell you what to do. They never say, Paul, do this. No, do that. A non-physical teacher, in my experience, will help you understand your experiences in such a way that you can use them and see them to become more compassionate and loving and connected and caring. That you can become more an expression of life itself, which is love. When I say that the new understanding of power is the alignment of your personality with your soul, I mean that by aligning your personality with your soul, you allow the energy of your soul to flow through you into the Earth School, like the breath of a musician through a flute. And in such an individual, you cannot tell where the personality leaves off and the soul begins. That's an authentically powerful personality. That is the new potential of the new consciousness. The new consciousness, we could give it a name, multisensory experience, multisensory consciousness. The old consciousness was confined to the five senses. The five senses together form a single sensory system. And the object of that detention is physical reality. Now we have another sensory system. We're multisensory. We know that we're more than minds and bodies. That means simultaneously, we know it. That means we're already accessing aspects of non-physical reality. How do we access that? That's where intuition enters the picture. The new consciousness is more than intuition, but intuition is the heart of it. You can't have the new consciousness without intuition. Your intuition doesn't exist without the new consciousness. Well, it exists now and then. People, 5th-century humans, would get a glimpse of it. Carl Jung called it synchronicity. Something happens and you think, wow, that was quite a coincidence. There was so much meaning. What was that meaning? Let me look at that. Well, that's as much as we knew about intuition. It was a fluke. It was not even worth studying about in psychology. Psychology, by the way, actually means the study of the spirit, but it never has been that. It's been the study of affect, cognition, and perception. Now, we are involved in a personal exploration of the spirit, because that's what we are. I will say that each of us, I, you, and everyone listening to me and to you, is a powerful and creative, compassionate, and loving spirit. So if you're listening to this podcast, consider that. Try that on for size. That you are more than your personality. Your origin is more than physical. You are more than biological. And your experiences are more than personal because you are more than personal. You are a powerful and compassionate, creative and loving spirit. And the pain in your life shows you the distance between that reality and your self-perception.
What I'm wondering is, so is it still possible then to misuse intuition?
No, it is quite possible to mistake it or to misunderstand it. There's an example here in the United States of an older one now, of a serial killer who was caught, a brutal killer, sent to prison. And in prison, this killer was killed by another inmate. And when the inmate was asked, "Why did you kill him?" the inmate said, "God told me to." That inmate was not listening to his intuition, was not listening to divine. He was listening to a frightened part of his personality. Your intuition will never tell you what to do. And your non-physical teacher will explain this if you ask. Because no non-physical teacher or anyone can assume responsibility for your karma, for what you create with your choices. That is for you alone to decide and for you alone to experience. But a non-physical teacher can assist you in your spiritual evolution. That means moving beyond your fears, moving beyond your jealousy and insecurity and need to please. There is at the heart of human experience the pain of powerlessness, and all humans have it, 5th-sensory and multisensory. The pain of powerlessness is the pain of wanting to belong, needing to belong and not belonging, needing to be a part of life and not feeling like you are, you're just watching it, needing to love and feeling that you're not capable of loving, needing to be loved and knowing that you're unlovable. It's the fear of ever letting anybody see you inside the way you see yourself, because if they did, they never want any part of you. It's the feeling of being, the experience of being inherently defective, intrinsically flawed. Something wrong with you and there's no way to fix it. That's the pain of powerlessness, and it's excruciating. It is excruciating. Humans with the old consciousness reached outward to try to change the world when they experienced the pain of powerlessness. They try to change the world because they feel that the world is the source of their pain and their bliss. But it's not. The world activates internal dynamics in you. And these internal dynamics we're calling loving and frightened parts of your personality. And when you change them, when you cultivate the loving parts and challenge the frightened parts, then you're really creating traction in your life. Now you're cooking with gas. Now you can start to change yourself. And as you do, you change the world. And there's a reason for that too. That's fascinating. But do you have any questions? I'll pause now and answer whatever questions come to your mind or to your heart.
Mhm. I just want to share that I've experienced the times of deepest powerlessness in my own life, like the passing of my father and other situations where I felt like something is collapsing. When I didn't run from that, they were really the windows to something deeper, to this connection, to intuition. And this were the moments where I experienced for the first time some kind of, I wouldn't have names back then for it. Thankfully, a few years before I received your wonderful book, so there was some sort of language and some sort of understanding. But in these moments, I felt this inner guidance. So it feels like it can be a window.
It is a window. It is a window, Paul. You put your finger on it. You put your heart in it. Exactly. This is the creation of authentic power. I mentioned that every experience you have serves your spiritual growth. I had a similar experience. My beloved Linda Francis and I were together for 27 years. And when her soul went home, she had a stroke. And she fell down on the kitchen floor. I was standing beside her. And I called the ambulance. I recognized it as a stroke. I called the ambulance. They were there in a moment, 10 minutes actually. And they took her to a large regional medical center, only 20 minutes away from here, where they have the ability to do a medical procedure that will increase the window of opportunity to stop a stroke before it can cause permanent damage to the brain. Without this procedure, that window is only 2 hours. With the procedure, it's 24 hours. And they could do that procedure. And they did. And it didn't work. I talked to the surgeon in a small room just outside the operating room, and he came to report. He said, Gary, I tried to do this procedure and I couldn't. I went in through her groin. That's the artery that's usually used to insert a device that goes through the arteries to the blood clot and removes it or dissolves it. I couldn't do it. So I tried going in through her wrist and over her shoulder, and I couldn't do it. I'm sorry. Wow. So I asked him, is there anything else you can do? Anything? And he said, yes, there's an unconventional procedure I can do. I'll do it if you ask me. What is it? I asked him. And he said, I can puncture her carotid artery here and go in that way. Her block was in the center of her forehead between her eyebrows. Half of Linda's brain was deprived of oxygen. It was a massive stroke. And I said, please do it, do it. So he came back in another 20 minutes and said, I couldn't do it. I pushed so hard that my cable started to come out of its sheath in the artery. I'm sorry. So Linda was moved to an ICU room where her body died of a massive stroke 3 days later. And I knew, the nurses knew, the doctors knew. There was nothing we could do to stop it. And I'm telling you this story because you've experienced your version of a loss that great. And for 2 years or more, I was speaking with Linda I was in communication with her, and I missed her. I was in grief with a capital G. So painful, just excruciating. And I was thinking about that one day, about how perfect our love was. It was effortless. I loved her completely, and she loved me. And it was so comfortable. Yes, we had some power struggles, maybe 4 or 5 over that period of time, but it never brought up the question of whether we'd be together. We were together. So I was thinking of that perfect love and musing about it, and I heard my teacher. My teacher is an angel. His name is Genesis. That's what he says anyway. And I don't think it's a he. I ask him, what are you? He's not a he. He said, I'm an impersonal energy dynamic that has evolved into the ability to assist your global village and other life forms in other galaxies. Well, that would have been more than I could accept. When I was at Harvard or writing a book about quantum physics, I would have dismissed that all. But I couldn't dismiss this because everything this angel has told me has helped me to change my life in concrete and constructive ways. I love who I am now. I am love now. And this didn't happen with a blink of an eye. It happened with choices. I was in the midst of this pain that I feel you experienced when you realized that your father was not going to come home from a hospital or be with you again or walk with you in the way he did. But from the perspective of the new consciousness which you have now, your father didn't go anywhere. The personality that was the incarnation, that was your father, died. It's gone. Ashes return to ashes and dust to dust. But the energy that animated that incarnation, that beautiful incarnation, remains. It still loves you, and you still love it. This is multisensory perception. This is what we are all gaining. And in fact, we are all experiencing. By all, I would say, maybe, this is a guess, 4 billion people. There's 8 billion of us on the earth, and I feel that we're about midway through this transformation. That means there's about 4 billion of us that have the new consciousness and 4 billion that don't. They're still confined to the old consciousness. So your podcast, your efforts, my books, my words are all directed toward assisting those individuals with the new consciousness, not trying to convert or change or persuade or teach, to share, to share. My teacher told me once, he said, Gary, when you teach from your heart, not to impress, but to empower, not yourself, but others. That's what I strive to do, and I've gotten a great deal of satisfaction, and now it's my complete satisfaction. I love explaining the things that we're talking about now, because this is where our new consciousness is taking us. We're in the initial stages of it. The headliner, the big news is we can now choose between love and fear. It's a choice. Before, there was no choice. If we felt loving, we didn't have to choose anything. We just felt loving. But what about when you hate someone? What about when you hate yourself? What about when you want to kill someone? What about when you want to hit someone? What about when someone hits you in one way or another? How can you be loving then? That's what this podcast is about. That's the new consciousness. That's when the reality that love is a choice, and you are the only one who can make it in your life. And this new consciousness is emerging everywhere. It's emerging in business people and rice farmers. It's emerging in Brazil. It's emerging in Canada. It's emerging in Germany. Where is it emerging? You might say, show it to me. It's not outside my apartment building. I've been there just this morning. There's no new consciousness there. It's emerging in you. That's where you'll find the new consciousness. And that's where it's finding you.
And this is what I'm experiencing, exactly what you're saying, because I always thought the world around will change. There will be a big collapse and then something new. There will be a new planet. And now I'm not understanding. I'm experiencing. I am already in the new consciousness, but I'm living in the same world, on the same planet, on the same earth. But something has shifted, and it's mainly a kind of perspective. It's not accurate, but that's the closest I can find. And this is the joy I'm feeling. I have let go of this idea how the new consciousness should look like, and that it's just coming from inside me.
You decide what it looks like. That's a choice.
Mm-hmm.
It's a choice to believe these experiences that you're having. You can say that's nonsense and dismiss them, and your experience of the world will change. You can say they are true. I believe it. And your experiences of the world will change. There is no external reality. There is no, let me put it this way. Sometimes you think, I used to think, there's a path waiting for me, a road. It's the right road. When I find that road, I'm going to get onto that road and it'll take me where I want to go. There is no road like that. You create it. There's none waiting for you. It's a choice. So what are you going to choose? Now we're back to the topic of this podcast and the heart of the new consciousness. You can choose whatever you want between two alternatives, love and fear. Of course, there's other choices. You think, oh, I can move to France. I can get another job. I can get married. If I'm married, we can have children. These are all intentions, but they're not really intentions. They're out tensions. They change the world around you. An intention changes you. An intention is a quality of consciousness. It's not a physical goal.
Mm-hmm.
And when you speak with the energy of fear, you infuse your words and your deeds with that consciousness, that quality of consciousness. And when you speak or act with love, you infuse your words and your deeds with that consciousness, and you create different consequences for yourself. So now perhaps you can see that intuition is essential to the new consciousness. But the new consciousness is more than that. You talked about your changing awareness, and you said it's a perception. It is a perception, but it's more, immensely more. This is not a psychological shift. This is a shift in reality and your consciousness, and there is no difference. Yes, I can see you looking. Say, really? Really?
It's
Come on,
processing. It's
say that
processing.
again. I'll say it again. There is an uncrossable, unclimbable barrier in the old consciousness between in here and out there. That barrier is not part of the new consciousness. There is no distinction between in here and out there. And that is why you cannot change the world without changing yourself.
And that is also why I feel like I am receptive to intuition. I see clearly how it's influencing me, how it's there, how it's guiding me. And there is a part that afterwards I can observe that right away questions it. And that is in a way of reflection for me also where we are as a collective consciousness, that there is this split. I have the choice what to believe and what to follow, but there is this part still. And it's not as strong as it used to be because it has less and less evidence, I have to say. It's not based on anything anymore, just on old conditioning. But in a way, it helps me also to find compassion and to to still be here and find compassion for this duality that we still experience. I want to still ask you, if you don't mind, you write in the book, in The Seed of the Soul, about intuitive channel and intuitive process. And you say one is like cooking at home and one is like eating out.
That's
Would you
right.
mind explaining that a bit more?
When you draw upon your own experiences, your memories, your history, your family, your cultural lineage, you can receive answers. And that's what I meant by intuition, and that experience of it is cooking at home. When you are in communication with a non-physical teacher, that's with a capital T, by the way, capital T, that wisdom, that knowledge, that compassion that you are experiencing comes from beyond the earth school. It's a wisdom and a compassion that's beyond what we can give to one another. That's what I'm calling intuition. I believe that's what most people would think of as intuition. And that intuition, by the way, is not drawing only upon your personal experience. An aspect of your personality that may be jealous, for example, or may be warlike, can be very old. It can be older than you. It can come from a lifetime prior to the one that you're living. But it's not actually prior. There is in New Age circles a popular term, past lives. Each soul has more than one incarnation, many in fact. And from the perspective of the soul, these are all simultaneous. That's why there's such a thing as generational learning. That's why what you learn, you, Paul T. in Germany in this year, can shift your consciousness from fear to love and change your past. These influences that you feel, your passion for understanding consciousness, your love of music, whatever it is that you find moving you in your life, often those influences come from before the birth of your personality. You may have a personality that was a Roman centurion, for example, and that energy can literally step into a body and want to hold a modern weapon out of curiosity. Our arena of awareness is now expanded hugely, and this is the new consciousness. Now, let me say that everything I'm sharing with you, I'm sharing from a very limited perspective, and that perspective is the perspective of the incarnation that is Gary Zukav. It's an incarnation that I am an incarnation that has reached for the highest truth I can attain. In my case, that has included contact with the angelic realm. All that I'm sharing comes from that limited perception. That limited perception is this big. For those of you who are listening on audio and don't have video, I'm holding a space between my fingers that's about, 4 or 5 millimeters? I talk in inches, so it's about 2 inches, maybe 1 inch.
I see a centimeter here.
A centimeter. That is how much I see of a spectrum, a continuum, not a spectrum, a continuum. A continuum has no beginning and no end. For example, imagine a horizontal continuum. It goes to the right to infinity. It goes to the left to infinity. And of that continuum, I'm seeing 1 centimeter. That's my perception. And that's what I'm sharing with you. but I'm sharing it with my heart. And these are my experiences. And my intention is to suggest to you that that centimeter of awareness is now much larger than it used to be. In the old consciousness, it was a fraction of that. Now it's expanded to a centimeter. But that awareness, it's like a few inches on a journey thousands of kilometers long. But that centimeter has all the power in it of that entire journey. What you experience here in the Earth School is significant. The Earth School is the densest level of light, but it's holy, it's sacred. And you are waking up in it. That's the new consciousness. How will you use it? You can use it to create with fear or create with love. Those are your choices.
Mm-hmm. What I want to ask you still about intuition is the way intuition shows up, the form, if we can say this, linked to our personality and to our conditioning. From near-death experiences, you often hear that people who are Christian, they are received by Jesus, or Hindu people, they see Krishna, Buddhist people see Buddha. And I'm wondering, how is that for us? Is that if we are more used to words, is intuition maybe showing more up as words? If we are seeing more, if we are more used to images, if we're that kind of personality, is that the way it shows up? Is there a link?
There's no one way to experience intuition.
Mm-hmm.
And none of those ways are superior to the others.
Mm.
It happens with words for me. Some people see colors. Some people hear colors. Some people get sensations on their body.
Mm-hmm.
Your intuition will always guide you toward your spiritual development, which means toward harmony and cooperation and sharing and reverence for life, the intentions of your soul. How you experience intuition can be as unique as you, and you are unique, like a snowflake. And you are more than unique. What is it that is unique? You are a unique expression of the universe. And so is everyone else. And you decide what that unique expression will be. And you take that a step farther. You are more than a unique expression of the universe. You are the universe. I'll say that again. You are the universe. The universe is love. We already mentioned that, talked about that. That means you are love. You're not loving. You don't have love. It's not a personality characteristic. It's not even a characteristic of your soul. You are love, just as you are choice. These are the places that the new consciousness is taking us. In other words, we are experiencing human consciousness as it is now moving toward a consciousness beyond human. Oh, you can look up to the right, you can look up to the left, but the only place that you're going to register that is inside. No sense looking outside, up, down, around, behind, inside. What do you feel about that? I would suggest that for the moment you make a practice, if you choose, of suspending your intellect. Your intellect was designed to work with the five senses. It analyzes five sensory data and selects those that it feels are the most supportive to its personality in the pursuit of external power, manipulation, and control. It cannot do anything else. It has no interest in, it cannot accept, it cannot use, and it can never experience the new consciousness. And you will reach a place where it's necessary for you to let it go. For me, that was, and by the way, I still know my zip code. I've got passwords, so many I use a password manager, but I know how to get into the password manager. I'm not a blank infant because I'm not using my intellect. Using your intellect is like being a carpenter. And intellect is one of your tools. It's the only one you've got, but what you've got to do today is saw a board. And the only tool you've got is a screwdriver. Well, how well is it going to work to try to saw the board with a screwdriver? That's what it's like to try to understand multisensory perception with your intellect. So the time will come for the cessation of understanding and instead to focus on the giving and sharing of joy. I know the intellect. I graduated from Harvard. I wrote a book on physics that won awards, but it doesn't help me. The first time I saw that the universe is inside me, my intellect's first thought was, don't say that out loud. How can you possibly say something like that? It's narcissistic, it's solipsistic, it's unrealistic, it can't happen, but it is happening. Interesting, if you look though, you'll find that there are traces of this that you might have escaped your attention like they escaped mine. For example, I'm not Christian. For me, I never could be, because in my experience there is a difference between the teachings of Christ and the teachings of Christianity. But I don't study the Bible, but I'm living in a Christian country, so I get a lot of it. I absorb a lot of it by osmosis. And one of the things that I know that Christ said is, the kingdom of heaven is within you. That's pretty clear. The kingdom of heaven. What is the kingdom of heaven? Well, don't forget that this young man was talking to humans who were 5 sensory, 2,000 years ago. They had the old consciousness, and this young man had the new. The perfect example of an authentically powerful human being is Jesus Christ. And this young man said, or the Christ said, after this young man woke up, or however you want to put that, the kingdom of heaven is within you. But the kingdom of heaven is everything. That's God. God is the creator. He's it. Well, I was reading last year a Sufi mystic named Hafiz. He lived maybe 500 years ago. And he said, this Sufism is amazing. You realize that you're the creator of God himself. Well, that was 500 years ago. This mystic saw that. We're all seeing that now. With every choice of love instead of fear, you become a little godlike. And then you become more godlike as you choose love more. And then you become God. And then you have no limits. Your creative capacity is without bounds. And so also is your responsibility for what you create. And what are you creating? You're creating the unique expression of the universe. That is you. You are creating the universe. It can't be. The intellect now is in the Midwest we'd call it tizzy, objection, enraged, outraged. Let it Pay attention to what you're feeling, to your experiences. And I would suggest that instead of using meaning, let me correct myself. Instead of using knowledge as your beacon, as your guide in the world, use meaning. What gives you purpose? What draws your passion? And of course, you can distinguish between love and fear. I would like to do that before our time comes to an end, to show our listeners exactly how to do that. But it is something you will do, because as you begin to follow where the new consciousness is leading, you realize that its only purpose is to help you create authentic power. And authentic power, pardon me again, Paul, its only purpose is to create external power, manipulation and control. And that is what now produces only violence and destruction. So in other words, if the only thing your intuition can do is help you create external power, pursue external power, and pursuing external power now leads only to violence and destruction, that means your intellect has exhausted its usefulness. So if you're really considering the things that I'm sharing for your consideration, you will find that your intellect is of no use at all. It was painful to me to actually decide not to use it anymore. I'd always used it. I love using it. I love being smart. I love writing books. I love writing books about quantum mechanics. But what's happening now is more than what I like. What's happening now is more than I could have imagined. And not only that, there's not even an eye to imagine it now. Along this path, which isn't a path, what you think of as you will disappear. You is a necessary construct of the old consciousness to contain the consciousness that is, quote, you. Your consciousness will come to contain the earth school itself, and even more than that.
I'm letting that suck in for a moment. It's interesting because in the last weeks I received many moments where I felt like we will speak about Jesus in this conversation. And I was very surprised that because my intellect had not planned on this. And if I didn't have my own experience of really receiving this energy of this being, then it would be very hard to connect with what you're saying. But I have, so it opens up some deeper understanding. And it brings me to a topic I want to speak also about, which is the link between intuition and truth. And for me, Jesus is someone who is also very connected to truth. Maybe we can dive a little bit into that topic still.
Yes, we can. We can do it now. But just before, I would like to say, Jesus is not the only example that I meant to give. Jesus said the kingdom of heaven is within, and that's what we were talking about. The Buddha said, the Buddha, when Siddhartha Gautama became the Buddha, he saw worlds as numerous as dust motes. You know what a dust mote is? When you see a shaft of sunlight, and in that shaft of sunlight there are millions of little particles dancing around. Each one of those is a dust mote. Now, how many dust motes are there in a single shaft of sunlight? And how many shafts of sunlight are there in the world and in the universe? The Buddha saw this, that there are worlds as numerous as dust motes. And in each world there is a path to enlightenment and a Buddha. And every world contains all the other worlds. That comes from the Avatamsaka Sutra. And there's also some religious wisdom called Indra's net, which is exactly the same thing. Linda Francis, my beloved, and I are adopted into Lakota culture. That's a Native American Aboriginal culture. And according to Lakota culture, the center of the universe is everywhere. I'm thinking, well, that sounds familiar. I think there's some kind of relationship there. This is not only the wisdom of Jesus or of the Buddha. This are different perspectives for different individuals of themselves. What on earth or in heaven, or both of those, could Jesus have meant when he said, "You will do everything that I do, and more, and more"? How could you do more than Jesus? Well, you could do different things. To do that, you'd have to be Jesus. Whoa, that would have caused you to be murdered on the spot 1,200 years ago as a heretic. It would have activated terrified parts of personalities that became bishops and popes. But now we look at the Bible, and distorted though it may be through millennia of writing and rewriting and altering according to what monk or what king was inserting his perceptions, it still says that the kingdom of heaven is within you. All of the versions say that. All of the versions say, you will do all that I can do, all that I have done, and more, and more. Why did he say, and more? You'd have to be a Christ to do that. Well, are you? Ask Jesus the next time you're talking with him if you have not a religious connection. And you will find that there's no difference between you and this beautiful, powerful presence of love. Mm-hmm. And your connection with Jesus is not only a connection with Jesus, with love beyond words. It's a connection with yourself. You are not different. What is the universe? The universe is everything. How could it not be? The universe cannot be separate from anything. What could it be separate from? The universe is all that is. You are part of all that is. You are not separate from all that is. You are all that is. What is in all that is? Everything. The Buddha, Jesus, Krishna, Nazi executioners, angels. I myself am in love with humans. I see they come in all different shapes and sizes. The goodness in all of them runs deep, very deep. So deep that many humans don't even glimpse it, can't even imagine that it exists in them, but it does. And you, as you encounter the new consciousness, are on a path leading to that. But that itself is misleading. There's no path. Yes. There is what is, always has been, always will be, never could be. All of that is now, and you are all of that. There is no other. Other is your imagination. There is no other that your mind might say, might label Jesus. And when you are in connection with that, or whatever your experience of divinity is, whether it's an angel, you will find eventually that you are that what you are connecting with is love, and love is all there is, and you are all that is. So now we can dive deep in whatever direction you want to go, Paul. But I did want to clarify that whatever Jesus said, you will find in the wisdom that is other than Jesus. And the other than is imagination.
Mm-hmm.
There is one. We are accustomed to thinking in terms of parts and relationships between them. But there are no such things as parts, and there never have been. There is one, and all is that. And you are that.
Thank you. I would like to move again to the question of intuition and truth and what the connection is between the two.
To do that, it's necessary to look at the difference between relative truth and absolute truth.
Mm-hmm.
Relative truth is truth that's true for you. Absolute truth is true for everyone.
Is that the same as impersonal, personal and impersonal, as you call it?
Yes, those are more psychological terms.
Mm-hmm.
As you become aware of the incarnation that you are, first, you identify yourself with your personality. Here's who I am. Here's my name. I was born on this day. I'm going to die on a certain day. You begin to, you look at yourself as a personality. But then as you enter the new consciousness, or it enters you, because you're both seeking one another now and finding one another, and you're emerging in it and it's emerging in you, then you begin to identify yourself as a soul. Oh, I'm a compassionate and loving, powerful and creative spirit. I'm a soul, not a personality. That's what I am. I'm a soul. I know that I'm more than a body and a mind. As you continue to learn, you begin to realize, well, yes, I'm that, but I'm also a unique expression of the universe. Oh my goodness. Now I'm way beyond what my intellect can do anything but judge and reject. But I'm experiencing it. What should I do? Believe my intellect or believe what's happening to me? That's a choice. And then you begin to see, although there won't be a you in your consciousness by then, but there will be a universe. And you can say, but I am the universe. And that is as far as your intellect will even allow you to glimpse. It cannot glimpse it, cannot grasp it, has no use for it. But when you begin to experience the enormity of what you are, then you will choose of necessity between what your intellect is telling you to believe and what you are experiencing. So you ask about the relationship between intuition and truth.
Mm-hmm.
I'll give you an example of absolute truth, karma. In my understanding, there is no form of consciousness in the universe that is not responsible for how it uses its energy. But what is true for Paul and what is true for Gary, these are relative truths.
Mm-hmm. I had this insight coming to me recently where I felt like I wrote a text about this because I felt this so strongly, where I felt like to embody truth is the highest form of love. It came to me, and I cannot explain it to you now intellectually. I would like to hear your thoughts on this, if you want to share something.
It's true for me too.
Mm-hmm.
However, stay aware of people who say, I'm expressing the highest form of truth, but it's a relative truth. It's Christianity. It's Buddhism. It's Nazism. It's Baha'i. This is the highest form of truth. Listen up. I'm knocking on your door to tell you about it. Here, I've even got a pamphlet. I know what you are saying comes from wisdom. It is a perception that is accurate. The highest form of truth. What is that? It's love. That's what authentic power is. So when we talk about our evolutionary path now requires creating authentic power, that means creating love. Now, to be clear, you cannot create more love in the universe. That's meaningless. The universe is love. What you can do is alter your awareness. And that's what creating authentic power does for you.
And I feel we are in a time where we are really shown and everything is exposed that is not really truth. There are many people who are in position of power and so-called spiritual teachers, as you have heard, I'm sure, in the recent months and years, where we have seen that they speak one thing and they preach one thing, but they live a completely different life and they do not embody this. So as you said, if you embody truth, I feel like you would never say, I am speaking truth. There's no need for that.
Yes, it helps to be clear about what we're actually talking about. It sounds as though sometimes speaking about truth is something that exists objectively, so to speak, independently of us. And expressing that is the ultimate. But there is no such thing. It's the same case with the world. There is the experiential assumption, now proven incorrect, that there exists a world that independently of us. And if we can figure out how that world works, what are the rules, we can use that to benefit ourselves. This is the foundation of physics since Isaac Newton. There is no objectively existing world that we can discover. There are, if we could see with non-physical eyes, we would see maybe, you might say, possibilities. And each of those possibilities has a probability that changes. Mm-hmm. So there might be a possibility that you, Paul, will continue in the direction you're moving. And it's got a strong probability because of your courage and your passion and your and the wisdom that you've acquired. But it's a possibility with a probability. It's not an objectively existing world. Quantum physics was so interesting to me because I could sense when I wrote The Dancing Woolly Masters. And it was so much fun to write. That's why it's so much fun to read, because that discipline took its practitioners to the very limits of the intellect. Mm-hmm. And what they discovered was this: we cannot ever see reality. And they called that nature with a capital N in those days. We cannot ever see nature the way it really is. All we can do is see it the way we've chosen to see it. For example, an experimenter can do an experiment that will prove that light is a wave-like phenomenon. Proves it. There's no question. You cannot penetrate the truth of that. Light is wave-like when you perform a certain experiment called the Young's double-slit experiment, because light produces interference effects and like ripples interacting on water. Only waves can do that. But if you choose as an experimenter to perform another experiment, it will prove, and I don't mean suggest, and I don't mean say there's a strong probability. It will prove undeniably, irrefutably, that light is a particle-like phenomenon, that light has individual particles called photons. And when you shine a light on something, it's like sending a stream of little bullets onto that something. Albert Einstein created that experiment. He called it the photoelectric effect. And he knew that that contradicted Young's double-slit experiment, but he didn't try to explain it. He couldn't. No one could. This is the famous wave-particle duality of quantum physics. Well, now I'm talking about the not famous, but the undeniable, inescapable, everywhere, cannot avoid it, in us, duality between love and fear. This is it. And with every choice, we choose one or we choose the other. And with that choice, we create our experiences. So choosing love is not the better choice. Choosing fear is not the worst. The universe doesn't see in terms of reward and punishment, good or bad, better or worse. If it sees in any way, if you want to use that language, you could say that it sees in terms of cause and effect. And if you participate in the cause, you will participate in the effect. If the effect is love, that's what you will create for yourself. A world of compassion, openness, acceptance, appreciation, reverence for life. And a world of other people who are doing the same. And if you create with fear, you will create a world of contraction, closed, judgmental, painful, excruciating, unhealthy, and a world of others who are doing the same. So when you choose between love and fear, you're just choosing which world you're going to live in, because you create it.
You said earlier that you still wanted to talk how we can do that. Maybe this is the point where we go there, or this was already the answer. I'm not sure.
Let's go there. This is, for example, let's imagine for a moment that you're experiencing an emotionally painful experience. Jealousy, for me, oh, that's very painful. Heartache, that's more than a country and western song. That's more than sentimental. That's pain, physical pain. So take something like that, jealousy or grief. When you're experiencing that, look inside yourself. And when you do, put your attention, I'd suggest first in your 3 areas of your body, your throat area, your chest area, and your solar plexus area. You may recognize these as 3 of the 7 chakras in the East. I'm picking those because for me, these are the easiest ones to experience physical sensations when I put my attention in them. So put your attention, say, in your chest area and look for physical sensations. Not I'm happy, I'm sad, I'm up, I'm down, this is good, this is bad, I'm expanded, I'm contracted. None of that helps. Physical sensations. Like when you hit your thumb with a hammer, you're aiming for the nail. Oh, that is a physical sensation. Or you get your fingers caught in a closing car door. Oh, that's physical. You're looking for physical sensations in your chest area. And then you do the same in your solar plexus area. That's the area just below your sternum, your third chakra. And then you do that in your throat area. For example, if someone says, "What are you feeling, Gary?" Or if someone says, "What are you feeling, Paul?" And you're able to say, "Well, in my chest area, I'm feeling sharp stabbing pain in my upper right chest, and I'm feeling a contraction across my chest like a band that's being squeezed tight, and I'm feeling a dull ache in the upper left part of my chest over where my physical heart is, and in my solar plexus, I'm feeling a burning sensation across the top of it, all across the top, and sort of a churning, fluttering feeling. And then in my throat area, I'm feeling a constriction in the middle of my throat, sort of at the bottom, like it's sitting on my clavicle, my collarbone. It's about the size of a golf ball, and it hurts. And there's an ache on the sides of my throats, right and left. That is emotional literacy. When you can answer the question, what are you feeling that way? You are speaking literally. If you're not doing that, you're an emotional illiterate. And that will not help you to become aware of who you are and how to cultivate that. And while you're there, so to speak, you can look at what that thought, that part of your personality is thinking, and it will always be judgmental and critical. It'll think thoughts like, "I don't need to hear this, I already know it. I should be teaching this class, I should be giving this interview. Or, I'll never understand these things, these people are all more advanced around me than I am." Or it'll be thinking things like, "He's so stupid," or "I'm so stupid." This is what frightened parts of personalities feel and think. So while you're experiencing this, you know what it is you're challenging. This is a frightened part of your personality. Now, a challenge doesn't mean conflict. It means that you experience it intimately. And this process I've just described to you is emotional awareness. And that allows you to experience a frightened or a loving part intimately. When you're in a loving part, you can do the same, except that what you feel in your chest, throat, and solar plexus areas are going to be painful, are going to be the opposite, blissful, open, aware. Good feeling physical sensations, the kind you want more of. And that part of your personality is going to be thinking thoughts of gratitude and appreciation and caring and judgment, and not judgment, but awe of the universe, contentment. Now, let's go back to when you're experiencing a frightened part. While you're experiencing it, put yourself in a loving part of your personality, a time when you were loved and loving and you knew it. Do the same thing. What are you feeling in your energy processing centers? What thoughts is this part of your personality thinking? And there'll always be thoughts of gratitude and contentment and patience and awe of the universe. Then, while you're in the loving part of your personality, decide that you're going to speak and act from that part of your personality while you're experiencing the frightened part of your personality with its painful physical sensations and its critical judgmental thoughts. That's the moment of creating authentic power. Mm-hmm. That's when the spiritual rubber meets the road. That's when you change. And it's not an event, it's a process. The more you create authentic power, the more love begins to enter your awareness.
11:31 a.m.
And eventually your awareness fills with love, and you become that. That's how you create authentic power. That's the meditation. It's a heartfulness meditation. It's more than mindfulness meditation. Mindfulness meditation helps you become aware of what's happening inside of you and what's happening outside of you. And you let those experiences flow without judging them, without attaching to them. It's like going for a ride in a self-driving car. You're watching the landscape as it goes past. Heartfulness meditation, which is creating authentic power, is intentional. You put yourself in the driver's seat. You decide where this car is going. You're the chooser.
It's a kind of transmutation also, no?
A what?
A kind of transmutation.
Trans what?
Transmutation?
Transmutation.
Yeah, is that the right word?
Transmutation. I think you could call it that if you like that term. But it's a choice, a different choice. You're not slowly moving like a flower, like something morphing from one form into another. You are choosing in that moment to speak and act from a loving part of your personality instead of a frightened part.
And it's very different from reacting to certain emotions. It's very different from example, we feel some guilt and we do something for someone else. And this is kind of a reaction. It's not, there's no choice in that. And the way you're describing it, it's consciously stepping in and feeling it, and then choosing a different part of your personality, but not as a reaction to that feeling, to that uncomfortable feeling maybe, but as a conscious choice.
That's perfectly said. In my experience, I would call choosing love a response and choosing fear a reaction. In the old consciousness was a consciousness of reaction. We were constantly reacting. The first 350,000 years of our species were essentially fear-based. By that I mean there were moments of tenderness and love, but it was a bloody, brutal history. There were moments of connection, moments of appreciation, not moments of reverence. Reverence is a multisensory, not perception, it's an attitude. It's appreciating that beneath the outer layer of appearance there is an inner essence, and that is what is related to in reverence. So you've described it beautifully, Paul. Fear is a reaction. You said there's no choice there. From the old consciousness, that's correct. But from the new consciousness, that's the big difference. There is choice. You are able to see that that frightened part of your personality is not the entirety. It's not coming from it's not the entirety of yourself. It's not coming from the unchangeable ground of your being. It's coming from one part of your personality, and your personality has many parts, and you can choose not to act or speak from that part, or to speak or act from it. In other words, as you can see your personality as existing in as many different parts, having many different parts, and you look at one of them, you put an arm's length of distance between yourself and that part. And in that distance, you can do something different. You can choose. You can inject conscious choice at the moment of intention, of choice of intention. You can react from fear, in which case the intention is fear, because you don't know your intention. It's unconscious, and every unconscious intention is an intention of fear. Or, if you wanted to, you could react consciously to fear. But why would you want to do that? Why would you want to cause yourself more pain? Why would you want to live in a world of coldness and emptiness and meaning and isolation and anger and judgment. Why? You can do it, but why? Why not instead, now that you see you have a choice, create a love of openness and inclusion and closeness and tenderness and compassion? Oh, why? Why not? And it feels good to do that because when you choose that, you're choosing yourself. You are love. That's why it always hurts to treat someone else unkindly, because it's yourself you're treating unkindly at the same time. We're awakening to all of this. And I love talking about it. And you do too, because you have this beautiful podcast. And the people who are listening to us. I'm speaking so freely about myself, not because I feel that anyone listening to us wants to learn more about me. They want to learn more about themselves.
Mm-hmm.
And as you share the uniqueness of your story and your experiences, it can stimulate others to share and to live their own uniqueness.
And
And
this feeling of joy of experiencing that I have been starting, I am witnessing, is so much grander and so much deeper than the little joy of having a personal gain. It's a completely different realm. I don't know how to explain it otherwise. It's exactly what you said in the beginning, which I love. I heard you mentioning this earlier, to not to teach or whatever you do, not to impress, but to empower. And once you are able to consciously choose and see that you are now going that way, and maybe there's still this frightened part that actually would like some recognition, but you are choosing this way. It's an incredible feeling of I guess authentic power.
yes, that's it. And also, you can make that distinction much clearer between what you feel when you get a small joy and a big joy. Let's call the small joy happiness. Happiness is what you feel when a frightened part of your personality gets what it wants. You get a new car and you're happy, and then you park your car and somebody runs into the back of it and you're devastated. So you're on a roller coaster up and down. Happiness comes and goes. It's dependent on the world.
Even the
Joy,
word satisfaction comes to my mind, like a short satisfaction in a
that's it.
way. Mm-hmm.
That's it. But what does it satisfy? It satisfies the frightened part of your
Mm-hmm.
personality. It doesn't satisfy you. It doesn't deeply fulfill or satisfy you. Now, joy is the experience of love. The two are inseparable. It's the revealer of love, the revelator of love. So when you choose love, you're choosing joy. And that is a response. A conscious choice of love is a response. You feel the magnetic attraction of a frightened part of your personality. You feel the need when you're angry to express it. It's almost irresistible. It's so strong. They're wrong. They're bigots. They're not saying truth. They're just saying they're saying truth. They ought to be hung. They ought to be. This is what a frightened part of a personality thinks and feels. And it's very attractive. It's magnetically powerful, demanding expression. And that is what you are experiencing and challenging, consciously deciding to move beyond the control of it. That's why creating authentic power requires commitment and courage. These are
But
part of the
sorry.
Well, these are part of the Authentic Power Guidelines. If you'd like to read all of them, come to our website. It's called seatofthesoul.com, S-E-A-T, like what you sit on, of the S-O-U-L.com. And there's a lot there for you. There's courses, there's programs, There's a lot of free things, all of them designed to do one thing: support you in your spiritual growth, which means moving beyond fear, which means moving into love.
There's even a course on intuition.
There is a course on intuition. There is indeed.
Mm.
But I hope you can see now how important intuition is. You started with that experience and sharing it, but you can see that intuition is it's a central feature, you might put it that way. But it's more than a feature, like you can take and add and subtract features. This is embedded. This is a part of the new consciousness. It is a major part of the new consciousness. As you begin to experience the new consciousness, intuition becomes a part of your life. It becomes your major decision-making faculty. In the old consciousness, the intellect was the major decision-making faculty. In the new consciousness, it's intuition.
Mm-hmm. To conclude, or moving at least towards wrapping up, because I think we're having a beautiful kind of framework now, coming back to intuition. I also just want to say that when I picked up your book 4 years ago, I started understanding it, I started reading it, and it resonated a lot. But in between, I thought always I can find some shortcuts, and I was looking for some practices where I thought I can circumvent my emotions and these painful emotions, and I always was brought back uh, painfully in those moments. Now, luckily, to your teachings, because they really bring us back to the basics, to working with what is right here. There's a sentence in the Seed of the Soul which says, only through emotions can you encounter the force field of your soul. That is the human passage in a word. I really love that. That is so clear and so simple. It's not simple. It's not easy, but it's simple and clear. And
Oh, yes.
I've been currently I'm reading the book The Autobiography of a Yogi for the first time, and even in that book that is full of miracles and special skills, the moments that really touched me and that I feel touch every human being and that connect us are the ones where that are truly deep um, human feelings. There's two situations where Yogananda is going back to India, and he's seeing his guru, and in a very loving but also reverent and innocent way, he's asking his guru why do you never say I love you to me? And even that being that is highly developed spiritually has this need to be loved and to be shown love. And the guru answers something like, well, words are words, something like this. And he then says, though, I've always wanted a son, and then you came and you were more than a son to me, and I will always love you. And this is the moment where I was so touched. And there's another moment where Yogananda is still with him, but he knows the death of the guru is coming, and it's so painful for Yogananda. He's deciding to go to another city because he is afraid to face this, and even he is has this very human experiences. Later, he's sitting in Bombay and he's crying for the physical death of his guru. He is in a deep grief. And he also has to experience the grief. And in this moment, his guru shows up as a non physical being and reconnects. But in that moment of deep, painful grief, and he is crying his eyes out. And these were the two moments in this book that touched me so deeply. Not all the miracles and special skills and wonderful things that are happening. They are beautiful and I enjoy them. But these were the moments. And when I read that, I connected that with your teachings because both show us that there is no way to bypass our feelings, our emotions. And this is our road to spiritual growth. And no, we don't escape to some higher realms. This
No.
is my small monologue at the end.
Oh, that's beautiful, Paul. Um, Yogananda's book, Autobiography of a Yogi, was a profound influence on me.
Mm-hmm.
And Linda and I listened to it 3 times.
Mm-hmm.
And what I discovered is, as you, there are experiences he had that don't apply to me. They're embedded in Hindu and Vedic and Indian culture. But the book inspired me to share in the same way that he was able to share. And maybe by my sharing, I can inspire someone else to do the
Yes.
same. Hmm.
Yes, that's what it did to me too. Very much so.
Yes. But there was something I was going to share. Perhaps it will come back.
Mm-hmm.
But we've been talking about it throughout. Um, what we've been talking about throughout is all that can be talked about. Whether you talk about it in terms of you or someone else, something inside of you or something outside of you, you're talking about the same thing. Everyone wants freedom from pain. The frightened parts of your personality are painful, but they also are love. There's only love. They are the universe's gracious way of drawing your attention to a part of your personality that you need to become intimately aware of and move beyond the control of in order to give the gifts that you were born to give. And that's where the fulfillment and the joy enters the picture. So even though the frightened parts of your personality are painful, the pain is transient. It can last for some people a long time or an entire lifetime, like grief. That's a choice. But for the most part, it's pain that doesn't last your lifetime. So you might say, you might look at these transient experiences of pain as shortcuts to joy rather than doorways to misery.
Mhm.
And know that I'm thinking of a song that I heard not too long ago. And the name of the song is Blessed to Be the Blessing.
Mhm.
You are the blessing. When are you going to realize that and bless yourself? Because that's when you bless others. You can't love others without loving yourself. And what an amazing experience it is to love yourself, because there is no difference between loving yourself, loving others. I started out by saying I'm in love with humans. God, what
Mhm.
amazing things we are. And even in the most unaware of us, like I used to be, there is goodness, always goodness. That's another way of saying we are love. And we are not on a journey toward it. From the perspective of the universe, we've already taken that journey. The universe is everything that has been, has not been, could be, will be. It's all there. The very first thing Genesis told me, one of the first, when he entered my awareness was, Gary, the road that you are walking is not unknown to the universe. I did not realize how much he was telling me in those few words. I do now. There isn't anything really left to do once you become the universe except enjoy yourself. And that shapes your unique expression of it. And that brings us back to our initial talk, love and fear
Mhm.
and intuition.
Mhm.
Paulus, I'm so grateful to you uh, for this beautiful podcast you have. Is there anything I can share before? We,
I think, Gary, I'm still touched by this sentence you shared from Genesis. It really tingled through me for a moment. It's really deep when you can experience the truth of that. That's why I'm a bit speechless at the moment. Um, but my feeling tells me that it's okay to make a stop here and to wrap up. I think we touched a lot of different topics, and in a way, we have this beautiful framework of starting with intuition and coming back to it. So for now, I have hundreds of quotes and questions, and it was sparkling the last days. Um, but who knows? Maybe we'll talk again, and there will be a chance um, to touch upon some other topics. For now, I feel there's a lot in there. It was wonderful to listen to you and to be in person with you while you share these things and to feel the presence. And I'm really really grateful you took the time, and um, I'm just happy and this is maybe joy, not happiness, to share these teachings also here in this part of the world. Um, and this comes just out of a deep, deep gratitude because they have reached me in a point of my life when there seemed to be no sense. But I had a little idea that there's something more. I had no language, I had no words, I had no experience. Um, if I tell you the story how the book came to me, it's another miraculous story. But so I'm just so that was my intention when I first contacted you and your team, and that was where my heart was beating for, and that's why you're here. That's why we're talking, and I'm sure many people will be inspired, at least those who are open for it. So you are the blessing, and thank you so much, Gary.
Thank you.
It's
And
been
thank you.
wonderful.
Thank you, Paul. Didn't mean to interrupt you.
Hmm. No,
Thank you.
that's it. Yeah.
Thank you for sharing your listeners, your in Hawaiian it's called ohana, your close family, with
Yes.
me. I'm honored to speak with you who are listening to us now. It's a real joy for me. Thank you, Paul.
Thank you so much. You already shared the information about your website and the book. I will give some more information and leave that in the description for everyone to check out. Thank you so much. If you enjoyed this conversation as much as I did, please make sure to rate the podcast on Spotify, on Apple Podcasts, on YouTube, or wherever you listen to podcasts, because that way it will find other people. And subscribe to the podcasts on your favorite platform. Share the episode with friends, with family, or with anyone that you think could benefit from that. And you can subscribe to the Letters from the Heart newsletter and to the podcast on Substack. Thank you so much.